is another segment in my shorter little series that I've been doing, answering questions, talking shit, and whatever happens to be coming up topic-wise in the wonderful world of the occult. So anyways, a common question I get, and this kind of goes a little bit into a previous video I did on, what spirit, can I work with this spirit or this entity? Can I work with Lilith? Whatever. Is also how to know if a spirit, if you've made contact, and if the spirit is how you are perceiving the messages, that you might not, it's not necessarily like you hear the booming voice from the corner of the room. Some people might audibly hear spirits or see them. I don't really see them per se. It's not like, I'm like, oh, look, there's a little dragon up in the corner there. Usually not the case. And there's no booming voice coming from the corner of the room. But you'll start to notice things. Like, I can tell when I'm doing a ritual evocation, the point at which I've made contact with the spirit, because I'll feel that cold, like a cold chill up my spine, and then it goes out my shoulder blades. That's usually, and that's something that I noticed over time and working with different spirits. I'm like, oh, there they are. Okay. So that's one of the things that I noticed for me. Might be different for you. You might feel like sometimes I felt like a light touch on my head. Sometimes it's like almost like sinus head pressure. I've had that in different, I've been doing a series of past life regressions, and sometimes towards the end, I'll feel very headachy after all of it. And stuff like that. And I've mentioned that in other videos too, where like sometimes I'll just feel like this like pressure on my face and stuff. So, there's different ways and how they communicate to you. Like, sometimes, sure, we'll do our divination, we'll whip out our pendulums and our dowsing rods and our tarot decks and our runes and our oracles and all that. But sometimes the spirit world has a sense of humor. And they will give you little signs and symbols and things. And you're like, oh, okay. Mine like to give me signs and symbols through songs. Like, I've gotten in the car, I was being impatient about something because I'm not really well known for being a patient person. And it's like, yeah, I kept getting the message from people. I'm like, you just have to be patient on this, whatever. I'm like, I get into the car, turn on the radio, Patience by Guns N' Roses comes on. I'm like, okay, I get it, spirits. Later, a cover of Patience by Guns N' Roses comes on. Another time, it was The Wait is the Hardest Part by Tom Petty. I'm like, well, all right, I get it. God, all right, I get it. It was just like they kept like kind of communicating me these little things. I still swear iTunes shuffle-a-mancy is a form of divination. Just saying. Or what's on the radio, things like that. Like, you'll start to notice little things, or you'll be like, huh, that's interesting. I just saw, a vulture or crows, or, because there's different animal associations and things like that with different spirits and entities. I know, like, I think with the Morgan, it's more like crows and vultures and stuff like that. And you might have your personal kind of connections that you have with different entities and things like that. Now, this would be like outside of being at like the zoo, where you expect to see like, oh, look, it's a polar bear. Not going to see a polar bear walking down the street in Philadelphia. Probably. I can't not say that. Fun fact about Philly, when 12 Monkeys was being filmed here back in the 90s, they actually apparently, because I don't know if you've seen the movie, but at the end when the animals are released and stuff like that, like apparently they marched the elephants down 34th Street from the zoo for the scenes for that, because I guess due to the size of elephants, they're probably hard to transport. So, and I guess the elephants had a great day. But anyways, so funny Philly story, Philly fun fact aside, because I mean, you would just see some weird shit here. It's you kind of like sometimes have to look at the little things, and the one thing that I have been able to do now, I was able to do it a little bit before, but like it really kind of got kicked into high gear after I had my right of deification last October with J.S. Garrett. It's just kind of like they're always kind of there now, so I could kind of like ask a question and it'll be like, there's the answer. Like when I was making the incense blend for King Paimon for the first time, I was like, I feel like this needs something. I'm like, what do you want? What do you want? And he's like, well, the expensive stuff. I am a king, or just kind of. When I did the Shemyaza product line, I was kind of channeled that information, just was like, all right, just pick out what you like, and run around the kitchen, wire my studio space, kind of, sniffing all the essential oils and fragrance oils and herbs and pulling out things and whatnot. So, sometimes it's little things like that. It's like letting them kind of guide you in magical and mundane things, or asking a question, and like, it's knowing your mind well enough to know to be able to differentiate between your conscious thoughts. Like, am I telling myself what I want to hear, or is this what the spirit is telling me? So it's being able to differentiate that a little. And you're always going to have a little bit of, there's times where I've needed to hear something for a time, but it served a purpose. And there's going to be different ways. Like a lot of times when I do rituals and things like that, like I will take my phone and just, when I'm burning incense, or if I'm having some weird shit going on with candle flames, because that happens too sometimes, this is like, I'll like do some, I'll take a whole bunch of photos of the incense smoke. Because I mean, it's going pretty fast, so you might not necessarily know exactly what you're seeing in it. But I've had some pretty amazing manifestations in the incense smoke. So I would like video record your work or take some document some photos. Like I had the sigil of Belial fully manifest in incense smoke once. That is not, for those that aren't familiar, I will grab and also plug it's a little altar cloth from Goetic Impressions, but that's the Belial sigil. That's not something that's easy to like manifest, like, the fact that manifested in the smoke of its own volition, kind of a thing. I mean, sure, random chance could have happened, but, that's something that, I've had that happen. I had a cute little ghost kitty in my smoke once. That was nice. I get Lucifer's draconian, like dragon kind of form a lot in incense smoke. So that's another way that you can look at, kind of your communication with the spirit world. Now, a lot of times they're going to communicate with you through dreams. Pay attention to that. If you have something that's coming through in a dream, pay attention to it, especially if it's coming through more than once and regularly. Write everything down. Write it down. I'm the worst at this sometimes, but write it down. I have random notes everywhere. Sometimes I'll just like be shuffling around on my desk and like, interesting. Because I'll just have scribbled something on a piece of paper. So pay attention to your dreams. If you're doing astral travel, it's pretty easy to contact, when you make contact with the spirits there. I mean, you see them really in full manifestation, where, getting them to kind of come through that ritual evocation and summoning, whether you're using like a scrying mirror or I have like this is a black obsidian crystal ball. I have a regular crystal ball. If you're using something like that, it might be you might not get the full image of them. But again, some of this comes over time. So, I'm trying to figure where I got that. There we go. And I didn't set myself on fire. Hooray! But pay attention to those little things, little signs, little synchronicities. And if something just keeps coming up for you, I mentioned this in the who can I work with video. If like a lot of people are like, oh, Lilith keeps coming up for me, or Hecate keeps coming up for me, or Astarte, or whatever. I'm like, follow that. There's a reason you're being drawn to that particular entity. Just hit the ground running and go. And again, we live in a great area of there's so many resources, and we can talk to communities, forums, YouTube, Facebook groups and all that, we compare, our experiences and stuff. That's where you get into the lovely world of unverified personal gnosis, UPG, or verified personal gnosis. So, like, one of the common things I talk about Belial a lot is, like, Belial is notorious for showing up completely randomly every different time you work with him. So that's something that's kind of known. But we also have been able to figure out, like, okay, sometimes he'll, show up, he's kind of got the dapper smoking man guy, and then he'll show up like this, and then he'll show up like that, and just completely random shit. But you know the energy signature at that point. Like, okay, the purple blobby alien, I'm like, hey, Lyle, what's up? I think the last time I worked with him, he showed up as a cross between a leprechaun and garden gnome. I'm like, Lyle, couldn't you... I was like, do you have any non-weird forms that you take? And then he took on, like, the form of, like, an attractive death metal rocker dude. I'm like, okay, I'm all right with this, Belial. Good choice. You know me now. Awesome. But, yeah, there's a lot of different ways. You can do automatic writing. That is another way that you can get really great, just kind of let go and start writing. Occasionally, sometimes I'm not writing in languages, or I'm writing in symbols and things like that, but you're still getting something from your communication with that spirit. Or you can even do voice memo, like automatic, just kind of stream of conscious. The same way you would be writing, just audibly, kind of just rambling on. I feel like my entire life is a stream of conscious ramble, but that's another story. Hi, ADHD here. But anyways, that's a common question that I get. Just wanted to address that a little further, because I try to get to things in comments, but when I start seeing, like, a lot of common questions and things like that, I'm going to try to make videos for it, just so there's, like, a point that I could be like, hey, check this out, because that's probably the best way to do it. I like having conversations and things like that. That's just kind of my shtick. So anyways, don't forget to click like and subscribe, and see y'all later. Bye!